I'd like to start the video with a wide shot of the tank and show you what it looks like when the water is quite clear. I'll do a water change afterwards and clean off the glass, and then I'll give that a chance to settle down before shooting a final shot, and we'll see whether or not the water clears up. Previously I had a rather large piece of Mopani driftwood in the front center that looked pretty good. Originally I put that in there to allow the 5 true Siamese algae-eaters a chance to rid it of blackbeard algae, and they did a good job of that. But I wanted to use that piece again because it's just the right size for a 10-gallon aquascape to hide the intake of a hang on the back filter, so I replaced it with a medium-sized piece of Malaysian driftwood in the front center there, and it goes pretty good with the much larger pieces and various size pieces of Malaysian driftwood. There is a piece of Mopani driftwood on the right, partially obscuring the intake of one hang on the back filter in this tank. But I managed to push most of the pieces of Malaysian driftwood towards the center, and with Java moss attached to most of them, I think the scape looks pretty good. It might look better if I covered the deep river gravel with black diamond blasting grit, but it'd take quite a bit to cover it all up in this size tank. But for now, this fish tank makes a pretty good home for a dozen adult Colombian tetra, the 5 true Siamese algae-eaters, a couple of otocinclus, an ancistrus, and hundreds of cherry shrimp. Cherry shrimp hanging around in the thick Java moss. When I accidentally introduced cherry shrimp to this tank, I was afraid that shrimplets would be sucked up by the hang on the back filters. But I've looked in the filters several times and never found any shrimp, so they seem to be able to avoid getting sucked up by these hang on the back filters. I wanted to share an update on my otocinclus. I've purchased probably half a dozen over the past several years, and these are the only 2 that survived for long. I believe that the stock that the local pet store gets are wild caught. So after going through shipping and all the trauma of coming from the wild and trying to get by in a pet store with all the diseases that come through there and so forth, they don't tend to do very well. But these 2 survived for me. Originally, I believe I started these 2 in a 10-gallon, and they weren't happy at all in there. Then I moved them to a 29-gallon, and they stayed hidden most of the time, so finally I put them in this 120-gallon tank, they seem to be doing quite well. Their bellies are nice and full, and I think they're pretty happy. Ideally, there should be at least 6 of them, but I'm hesitant to purchase more. Of course, I would quarantine new stock for 3 weeks at least. But in all likelihood, if the fish are wild caught, they wouldn't survive. And I'll probably stop purchasing otocinclus since I can't seem to get locally bred stock. "24 hours after a 10-gallon water change, the water looks pretty clear. Several hours ago I did rearrange the driftwood a little bit, hide the heater a little bit better. I'll give the Colombian tetra and perhaps the true Siamese algae-eaters a treat of adult frozen brine shrimp.